Absolutely unbelievable news right now going on in the financial system. I'm going to reveal the first thing, what the Federal Reserve members have been buying. This is extremely important. The second thing I want to look at is what's going on in Australia. Many friends of mine in Australia, I'm going to give you some details you need to know, and it connects in with what's happening in the United States and the central bank known as the Federal Reserve, the RBA in Australia, doing some things that I think everybody in the US should be paying attention to. The third thing I want to look at is what's happening in China. There have been some recent developments that everybody should be aware of. All of that and more. Let's go. Oh my goodness, it has been revealed. Dallas Fed's Robert Kaplan was an active buyer and seller of stocks last year. 11 of the Fed's 12 regional banks have provided disclosures of their leaders' 2020 financial profiles in recent days. So this just gives us a little insight as to what they're doing. Now, what does this tell you? What does this show? This entire system is so corrupt. Now, they're highlighting Robert Kaplan. He is one of the most vocal, one of the most outspoken in the Federal Reserve System, talking about how, you know what, maybe we should be pulling back on all this stimulus. But he's not afraid to use it to his advantage and actually be able to profit from that, just like BlackRock, just like all of the other institutions. So this right here talks about what they have done. I'm going to give you the actual detail directly from the source. If you go to the other guys, you're going to get just a whitewashing and repeating the messages. I will show you the source itself. It's all listed out. But I wanted to highlight what happened historically here going back to last year. The Fed is buying some of the biggest companies' bonds, raising questions over why. You remember this? I highlighted it on the channel, of course. Corporate American titans such as Microsoft, Apple, and Home Depot have been among the beneficiaries. So the Federal Reserve itself was buying up and is buying up all of the corporate bonds of the biggest companies in the United States. Now, if you look at it, compared to the total, sure, it's a small number, but that money is ultimately just propping up these companies. And then you have people within the Federal Reserve who are buying up those stocks. And this is something, the collusion, the moral hazard. I mean, there's so many different levels of disaster that this has created. So let's look further into it. Again, they're highlighting Robert Kaplan, but it's going on all over the place. What about what BlackRock is doing? They literally said, hey, the Federal Reserve is going to buy stuff and we're going to help facilitate that transaction. We're just going to mimic what they do. This is unbelievable. Federal Reserve Bank of Dallas President Robert Kaplan made multiple $1 million plus stock trades in 2020. And then you're saying, oh, they're trying to say here that, well, some of the others, they barely did anything. So he's the bad guy. He's been the most outspoken out of all of this, saying that, you know what, maybe we shouldn't be printing all this money. Maybe we should start to slow down on that. But that's besides the point, because they're all in this system together, okay? All right. Now, they talk about this. According to the disclosure, Mr. Kaplan had a total of 27 individual stock, fund, or alternative asset holdings, each valued over $1 million. We're talking about Apple, Amazon, Boeing, Alphabet, Facebook, and Marathon Petroleum Corp. Right here, just saying that you've got over $1 million in 22 individual company shares or investment funds. Okay, looking at this, you could see it in a little bit more detail. They're just covering more of this in this article. If you want to check it out, I will have all the links in the description, but I'm really interested in getting into the actual disclosure itself. Remember what I said. We are talking about the actual source. I don't give you speculation. I don't give you something, off the top of my head. I actually show you the source. So take a look at this. My head might actually, speaking of head, my head actually might be covering this, but I'm going to have the link in the description so you can check it out. Schedule A, reporting individual's name, Robert Kaplan. Looking at the left-hand side column, we are seeing assets and income, and it's just showing you here the value of the assets. So if I scroll like this column right in here says over $1 million, okay? and check that out. Look at it. Okay, I don't know if you could read all that, but I'll just go down the list. Apple, Alibaba, Amazon, Boeing, Chevron, Delta, and it goes on and on and on. Okay, all the companies that you know, all the big ones. Sure, he's not the only one that is purchasing these stocks. Okay, and he's not the only one making really big purchases of these stocks. He realizes what's going on. Maybe he bought them when the market tanked. Maybe he just went in and scooped them all up. But it just shows you the Federal Reserve bailing out the corporations, Federal Reserve members always saying, we really have to help the economy out. Yeah, it's the economy we need to help out. We know what's going on here. And the unfortunate part about all of this, the unfortunate part, is something I'll cover in the Money GPS Insights. Let's take a look. The Fed is bailing out these mega corps. These mega corporations, we're talking about trillion-dollar companies, and then you have the members of the Federal Reserve buying those stocks. The middle class is evaporating while the totalitarian system is thriving. You could see this alive and well right here. Most importantly, you must understand that they know exactly when to pull the plug. They have done this time and time again. They are able to time this very perfectly and make it happen. They did it last time in 2020. They did it back in 2008, and every little instance in between. They've been getting better and better at this, and the richest of the rich, the elite, are able to profit every time. Okay, my friends in Australia, check this out. I'm sure you probably have already seen it, but this comes directly from the RBA. Okay, this is the Central Bank of Australia. It says statement by Philip Lowe, Governor, Monetary Policy Decision. And the way you read it, if you weren't aware, this point right here, purchase government securities at a rate of $4 billion per week and continue the purchases at this rate until at least the mid-February 2022. So you read that and okay, fine, they're going to purchase $4 billion, but what needs to be understood here is that they've reduced their purchases from 5 down to 4. Not a big deal necessarily, but what does this mean? They are tapering. That tapering, they don't want to talk about it as a tapering, but this is what it is. The Australian dollar fell on Tuesday after the Reserve Bank of Australia stuck to plans to taper its bond buying, but extended the length of the program as the economy is apparently struggling with all the lockdowns. So they basically said, the timeline is changing, but we're still doing it. So they've implemented that right away, but I think they were going to try to increase the pace of that, but they're going to slow down the pace. That's what it's saying. And then you have this. It's difficult to find, sometimes for a lot of people, the actual assets owned by the central banks. This happens to be the RBA right on their website. You could find this official reserve assets. And I found something to be interesting. A topic that we've been covering recently was the SDRs. It actually shows them and lists them right here. I'll show you one more point. Stick with me, okay? Then we got to talk about China, 10 cities. I got a lot of stuff. You could see the foreign exchange, but the SDRs right there, the reserve position in the IMF is also listed because that's so important. The amount of gold that's there, it fluctuates from time to time, and you're looking at 2020 and 2021. And then you can see the total, of course, but I thought this was interesting as well. As part of the IMF's global allocation of SDRs, Australia received an additional allocation of SDR $6.3 billion in August of 2021. So while the total, $6 billion compared to the total economy, not a huge deal, but why is this even happening? Why is the IMF giving countries, developed nations, money? Okay, that's coming out of your tax dollars in the first place, and then it's going back. Doesn't make any sense. Okay, what else doesn't make any sense is the prices of things we're seeing today. There's one aspect, though, that is clearly ridiculous. I've been covering this all throughout. Cost of moving cars across the ocean is at a 13-year high. Hiring a vessel that can carry 5,000 cars costs $24,000 a day. Freight markets globally have surged so far this year. You could see the chart where it was at the beginning of 2020 when everything was down and depressed, 7.5 thousand. Now you're looking at 24,000. Incredible. So every single type of freight right now expensive, which is strange, very strange, because the air shipping, with so many flights back online, air shipping should have reduced in price significantly. That's not the case. Something fishy. U.S. ports, sea shipping logjams likely extending far into 2022. I talked about this, that likely because of the busyness, regardless, seasonality here, the fourth quarter of the year is usually a very busy time. It keeps getting more and more and more intense throughout that fourth quarter. And then you have China slowing down and basically turning off for about a month, depending on when their New Year celebration is. And then, of course, that is going to cause a problem. So maybe by March timeframe, things started to get normal again globally. Okay, they're just showing you you got the volumes, crazy volumes, and so on. All right, look at the container rates. You see the prices. That's what matters. That's what matters. The prices that you pay. And while things are increasingly getting toppy, if you want to call it that, or maybe just inflated, you see people being unable to afford basic goods. This article right here is just talking about tent cities. They're all over the place. I mean, I'm not going to read you the whole article, but it's just saying every major city in the US dealing with tent cities right now. And this, of course, is something that we never highlight, what I covered at the beginning of the video, and that is these individuals all connected in with this entity, the Federal Reserve. Don't see the Federal Reserve as, Kaplan's the president or Jerome Powell's the boss. It's not like that. It's the financial institution working together. Where did Kaplan work before? Does anybody want to take a guess? Should I say it? Let me know. Let me know. Put it in the comments below. Before I say this, put it in the comments below. What company do you think Kaplan worked for before, at some point? I don't know if it was just before the Federal Reserve, but he worked there for a period of time. Take a guess. What is it? That's right, Goldman Sachs, obviously. Okay, now flipping the page really quickly to China. Chinese muscle in on Afghanistan's rare earth mineral deposits. Uh-oh, they're moving in. The US apparently didn't get enough of it. China's swooping in, and now China weighing occupation of a former US airbase at Bagram. So they're going in. Apparently, they say, no, we're not doing this, but you know that nobody has to believe anything any of these governments say. This right here just shows you what's happening. They are buddy-buddy with the new government, so it looks like this could be the case. They might get the resources, they might give some protection, they might be part of the Belt and Road, and so on. Who knows? Speaking of China, last thing we're going to cover, the sales of overseas assets could hit a new record as firms set to lock in their gains. We'll see. China cashes out. Okay, so they're selling. What's happening here? What are they up to? Is this because they're trying to rein in, China's trying to rein in on that? Who knows? Who knows? Okay. So I'm just speculating. Of course, I don't like to necessarily tell you what to believe, but I give you the data and that's about it. Look, if you want all the information, you've got to be an insider. That's where it's at. And that is simply signing up for free at themoneygps.com or hit this card up here. It will bring you right there. Sign up. You get the email of the day. And hold on a second. Wait a second. Have you given that thumbs up? This type of data unavailable anywhere else. And all you got to do to support the channel, hit that thumbs up button. If you haven't seen this video already, you definitely want to check it out. Click it, and I'll see you there.